Welcome back to Story Deep Dive with Rachel and Dana. This is a podcast where two book coaches, editors, and besties discuss books not as readers but as writers to draw inspiration from great books and have plenty of laughs along the way. And this week we are going to be doing a deep dive into the plot of Tempt Me at Twilight by Lisa Kleypas. But before we do that, and I will have you know that I'm just going to give you an aside, Dana, so this is giving you time to prepare for small talk. So we talked about this, I think, in last month's episodes, that before we do, whenever we start a new book series, I always go looking for interviews with the author so I can say, how do they say their name so I can say it right? But it was really fun because I was looking for interviews with Lisa Kleypas, and a lot of the interviews that, like, the first ones that came up were for, she was having a new book release come out. I think it was called Hello Stranger, which is not one I've read. But they were from like the early 2000s into the 2010s. And they had this like very, very nostalgic feel. And like one of them, she was like signing books with like her romance writing bestie, which was so cute. And they were just like, I'm just here to chat with you while you sign your books. And it was like so wholesome, but it was also like you could see it in like the video quality of like what year it was. And I was like, oh, I just had one of those like blasts from the past that was just like hitting me right in the nostalgia. So I just thought I'd share about the experience of finding interviews with Lisa Kleypas.
Listen, I went looking, and even though I didn't listen, I have no intentions on having to say her name. However, you always say that, and I was like, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna look up and hear her say it, and I did. I saw some of those too. I was just like, oh wow, look at time.
Yeah,
it was time.
Weird because one of them was even like Borders, right? And which I think Borders has closed, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought so. I was like pretty sure that was the big one that closed. So seeing this like old, like it was like a Borders like book club like feature, which I was like, whoa. Like we don't see a lot of like Barnes and Noble, right? Doing like the Barnes and Noble book club feature or stuff like that. So it's really interesting to kind of see that like hallmark in time. So anyway, that was a 2-minute on-ramp. Dana, tell me what you got going on over at Danger Tales.
Mel, I need you not to tell us the whole time. Let's see, y'all, every time we get ready to do this, my brain is always everywhere. And I think it's because I feel like my mind is in a time warp between what we record and where we are. So I think it's sort of like a little bit of everything. However, I know that by the time this comes up, we are starting to prepare for our summer stuff. And so I'll probably talk about some of the other stuff that we're going to do this summer next week. But one of the things that we're doing is starting that this summer we're going to do a movie series. So instead of our book club, we're going to do movies.
Oh, that's so good.
I said,
I love that.
I was like, I want people to vote because I didn't want to be like, okay, because I'm not the only one that that must do it. However, you know how summers are in communities. Summers are like it's hit or miss. People are traveling. Mm-hmm. You are wanting to relax a little bit. But I thought, okay, how else can we do this? Because we have a really great time in book club. And I was like, I think I want to do movies this summer. And so I am literally at the time of this recording. Well, I guess I could say because this is going to be coming out later. So they'll know the movies. I'm trying to pick the movies. Well, I think I have the 3. But then this morning I was like, oh, I think I need to change one. But I have to think of things of like, will they be able to rent them? Yeah. Or is it affordable to buy? And can people get it in other countries? Because we have international students. And so that's what we're doing. So we're going to do it for July, August. No. What months? We're doing it for July, August, and September, I think. And yeah, we're going to have a good old time. I have the books the movies picked. So I'm going to mention them now because
I was like,
won't know.
Dying.
You know all of them.
Please tell me.
And I'll tell you the one that's like an honorable mention. Okay, let me hard pause. We are primarily romance, but we do have a few people that write cozy, and we have A few people that write in suspense and
Like strictly suspense or romantic suspense?
romantic suspense, but dallying in just regular suspense. And so I'm
Yeah.
always like trying to be aware of it. But
Yeah.
everybody learns so much from the book club that they love it either way. But I
Yeah.
try to keep that in mind. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
for sure.
So, okay. So I'm saying all that, and then I'll have all romance movies. Okay.
Excellent.
Okay. So the first one that I have is Love and Basketball.
Oh, classic.
It is, it is. I have The Proposal.
Ooh, oh my god, The Proposal is one of my favorites of I will watch that movie anytime, all the time.
Me too.
So
No
good.
problem with it.
Oh.
And then the third one is Made in Manhattan.
Ooh, I'm trying to remember if I've seen that one. It's like an absolute classic, but I can't remember if I've seen it before.
Girl, okay.
If I've seen it, it was maybe one time, but it's been a long
You should.
time.
But okay, so the reason why this will be so Love and Basketball, I think is a classic. I always try to make sure that we have some diversity
Yeah.
because it just helps. But also it is a really great one, and I think it's a great kickoff because they use the structure of the four girl, I'm about to tell you the four acts. The four what is it called in sports, child? You know I don't know nothing about sports.
You are asking the wrong woman. Looking at me like I would know.
Whatever it is when they go out on the court to play, and they have four somethings.
Quarters is my best guess. This is there are sports people in the audience who are like, they're like yelling of like, it's called this thing. And we're both like, what is that word? And I don't know if I ever knew it.
And I want to say four courts. Listen, don't take our word for sports. Okay. So the point is, it has it broken down in four, which is really great. And it pretty much clocks with a 4-act structure. Yeah. So I wanted this to be about looking at the 4-act structure and being able to recognize it across all of the movies. Also looking at certain tropes and how they unfold. Of course, character development and, all the other good stuff that you're going to get from each individual movie. Yeah. But that was one of the reasons why I picked Love and Basketball first. I think it's such a great one. And also it will be right before we go. No, it'll be right after we come out of our summer break. So it also will be it is our like first meeting. Week? We're going to do 2 weeks. Oh, so nice. It'll be the first thing we do, like coming back. One of the first things that we do coming out of our break. So I was like, oh, that'll be a good little, like, everybody's back, good energy, great movie.
Like also like warming into it so that it's not like you're on your break and then you're scrambling like, I gotta finish this book. Exactly. Oh no. So you just like watch a movie, you come and you talk and it just like warms everybody back into like being in the summer flow of things.
Which, exactly. While at the same time chillaxing, because it is the summer. I mean, it is. Yeah. And then we do, okay, the next one of The Proposal, which is a classic. I mean, everything. So I was just like, of course, like reverse age gap, boss romance. Yeah. The fact that it takes you back to like a small town. Yeah. And Ryan Reynolds is just adorable in that movie. Like he's so lovable in that movie. I don't know if lovable made it because he was a menace a little bit in some of those parts. But it's like it's a menace in like the cutest possible way. Like it's so endearing. The whole thing. I think listen, I probably know way too many lines. I can watch the movie nonstop. And I think it'll like a lot of those other things and you get to see it, right? Like look at a lot of it. I think the development of the characters, the development of the wounds and the expression of the wounds. Yeah. And so, so that's The Proposal. So exciting. Oh, and also, of course, fake engagement. I think that is also a different, because, you could say it's a fake engagement. But here, having the stakes that you have on it is like a great, so it is. And then the last one, again, is Made in Manhattan. And Made Manhattan is what I would consider almost like a modern Cinderella story.
Yeah, yeah,
Because she's the maid. Of course, opposites attract. He's a wealthy politician. She's a single mom. Like you have
yeah,
single mom and secrets, transformation. You can even say like swan. Like so, it's so many. But it's Jennifer Lopez is a maid and he's a politician. And uh, one day she's trying on one of the guests' like high dollar suits that she's supposed to be taking, like returning. And he sees her and thinks she's the person whose room that she's in or something like that. And so ends up like he likes her and hunts her down and she goes and they has this transformation moment. And then all of a sudden it hits the fan that she's the maid and he's known as a womanizer and has all of these women and they are like, oh, he's at it again and all of this stuff. And so it's a great heartwarming transformation sort of story. And she's fighting her mom and the sort of society seeing her as a maid and as a Latino, like in that, whether to aspire to something more. And then, and for him, he's trying to almost like get out of his father's shadows, who was also a politician, and carve his own way. But she sort of makes him connect to the realness of people. Like you're serving people, but are you really paying attention? You know what I mean?
Oh,
and
so good. Okay, literally tonight when we are like, we finished podcasting, because I'm pretty sure it's streaming somewhere right now. I'm going to go sit down and I think I'm just going to go watch it.
Please, if you do, please do. Well, you already know. Just text me. It is one of my favorite. Okay, so I'm going to tell you the honorable mention. And I know I'm going to get the name wrong. The honorable mention that I had was, what is it? Galaxy?
Guardians of the Galaxy?
Yes, one.
Oh, that's such a good movie.
I know. And that's a good one for looking at structure.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. It is. Didn't you and I do a study on it together? This is, y'all, Dana and I go way back.
And that was probably,
that was 7 years ago.
7 years, I think.
7.
Yep,
it's gonna be 6 or 7 years ago because it was around the time that it was before we were certified, I think, and while we were studying, because we were picking out movies and discussing them together, and we would do like the whole structure thing and like do like a breakdown, and we had like a whole conversation. I think I still have my notes literally sitting in my Google Drive.
I know I do.
Which is, it's crazy now that I'm realizing that was 7 years ago.
Well, I was like, I was like,
it's a great one though.
But I don't know, because I don't know if that will be as easily accessible. Streaming
I
would
don't know,
only be on Disney.
Yeah, probably. And I don't know what the like rental situation is, because they sometimes when you have something like that where it'll be kind of like locked down. So it's like either you can stream it on our streaming service for a monthly fee, or you can buy it at full price. So like those are the options.
And I know these, and so that's the last part. I mean, at the time it's recording, I've just like locked in our whole like the rest of the calendar for the end of the year, and so
the rest of the calendar for the year.
Yeah.
Oh, girl. Okay, hang on. Okay, I promise I'm not going to derail too hard, but I want to say something that I constantly like. I watch you do it, and it impresses me and it inspires me as a person who also runs a community. It's like your flexibility of like, let me turn this like, how can we do this different? Or like knowing that like, right, like it's about to be summer. So how do we shift so that like we're still gathering, but also like we're taking the foot off the pedal a little bit, because like people are traveling, people are on breaks, like their kids are out of school. Everybody wants to slow, like everybody kind of craves to be able to slow down in the summer. And the way that you sort of pursue like ways to facilitate that, and like you're always kind of willing to think outside of what you normally do. And I'm always like take like my little like antennas go up. As I listen to you talk about that, because like you know this about me, I'm so rigid as a person. Like I'm like, no, the people want this thing, like they need to, they ask for this thing, and so they're gonna get it, and they're gonna get it month after month after month. Like, you know, we're gonna do it, and we're gonna do things the same way, and I don't want to change things on people. What if they don't like it? And like all of those things that are like, we have to do things the same way every single time. And you just have so much more of like a flexibility of like an approach, and you're perfectly comfortable with that flexibility. Whereas I'm like, oh, if I change things, will people get upset? Like, what if they don't like it? Or like, ugh.
Yeah, but I still think about that. First of all, I take that as a compliment. Y'all, we're talking about this as community leaders, but this is in life, and this is actually one of the reasons why I do it is because it's about modeling. How do you make this sustainable for the foreseeable future, right? If you are working on a book, like think of the same thing of how we may apply to a community to your writing career, especially if you have a full-time job and you are just writing. You have to make it sustainable for you and your family. If you have kids, they're not going to look at you doing 10 or 15 years closed in your office all night after being at work all day or whatever. I mean, some people may try that, but that probably doesn't fare well for the long term. And so I would say, I think number one is thinking about what is the ultimate goal. And if I'm continuing to serve the ultimate goal, how we do it, we can extend grace. Right. So if the ultimate goal is to make sure that you have support, make sure that you have resources and you know where they are, I'm being able to show up as the best version of myself as your coach. And also the reality is like my best coaches and mentors model something for me. That when I really open my eyes and I see what they're modeling for me, I want to figure out a way, can I do that in my own way? And so to me, my question was, if I want to model longevity, sustainability, rest, like how can you do that other than to actually do it? Are they like thrilled that we don't have sprints? No. People are not thrilled by the fact that we do not have our sprints every day.
They're not cheering for no sprints, which makes sense. Like that would be, because if they were cheering, you'd be like, oh, maybe we need to change something.
Exactly. Because listen, we do not have to be on there at 5 o'clock. Would I still wake up and write at 5 o'clock? I would, but we don't have to, right? So I think that's the thing of like sustainability. And one of the other parts, and people can say whatever they want to say, y'all are gone. If y'all are gone doing y'all thing, do it. But don't have me sitting up in here and y'all out living
while you're on vacation.
YOLO. Right. Exactly. I'm like, so one of the things, there's other ways that I offset it because I do think about those things that you're thinking about. So the offset is that we're having a summer retreat.
Yeah.
And this is the first year that we're doing that. And they are so happy about that. So I'm using that offset. And we're going to do the summer break for 2 weeks, just like we do the winter break for 2 weeks. And I feel like it is a great natural rhythm. And the final part of this that I think that it models is that even though you have community, you are responsible for you. We can do all the stuff that we do. I can show up, you fill in the blank. But at the end of the day, you are responsible for you. And so if this means that during that time that you still need to get up to continue, then that, because you have a deadline, then you need to get up and continue. So then that made me go post in the community. Say, hey, I'm writing this morning, like, you know, put your word count or whatever. And I just have to, pray, Lord, let it work out. You know what I'm saying? Like, make sure everything work out. And also trust that we provide more than enough value and we provide a safe space that in the end it's worth it. And when the way that I set up our retreats, you have stuff to do. If, you know, even if you're not writing, you have stuff to do. So you are not sitting here like I'm twiddling my fingers waiting for something to happen. And so I didn't ever want it to be that. And I feel like as a community person, once I decided to be a community leader and really be a community leader,
Yeah.
because you already know I wasn't really trying to be a community leader.
I
So,
remember.
okay. So, once I decided was like, how do you do this and it feels good for them and you?
Yeah.
And lastly, it's sustainable over time.
Hmm.
And I think and giving them what they need in the meantime too, because you do want to
Yeah.
make sure that they're, they're paying to be there. So I do understand that. And so, we're making sure we're covering that too. And at the end of the day, the last final part is like, I give myself wiggle room to change my mind. Now,
Yeah.
I do things like, hey, let's vote.
Yeah.
When I went from the books to the movies,
Yeah.
let's vote. But I remember I think this is going into our third summer.
Hmm.
Like, patterns.
Yeah.
Pay attention to patterns.
Yeah.
Last year when we took the break, people that said something about it the year before loved it and was like, oh, I
Yeah.
needed that.
Hmm.
And a lot of people just sort of took a break. And
Yeah.
we still check the community or whatever,
Hmm.
but they took the break. So I think that's the other part is like you start patterning it. And I try to keep things like that around the same time. So
Yeah.
our winter retreat is always the first week
Yeah.
of December.
Hmm.
And then our uh break weeks are the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And then what we're doing for the summer, it's going to be the last week of June and the first 2 weeks of July.
Yeah.
So it's right over like the 4th of July when people are
Yeah, which is perfect
already
because people are already doing
already
stuff and have plans.
traveling and
Yeah,
yeah.
for sure.
So mhm.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, you're gonna be so proud because we also are gonna have summer break the
Come
weekend,
on.
which is like I was like literally working out the calendar because we're getting ready to launch, our next cohort. And so trying to find the like what is the right spot for like where launch happens, where kickoff happens, relative to the fact that, the present cohort is still wrapping up. Because we always do at the end of each cohort, we do a big like a workshop weekend, or we do like a big like weekend kind of event. So it's usually, I think we did like Friday, Saturday, Sunday or something like that. I have to go back and double check because December feels like a lifetime ago. So it has kind of a similar pattern where, we have one bigger event. We do kickoff, we wrap up with some Q&A, and then like we'll take a couple of weeks off because everyone just did this huge haul of work to like plan the revisions and really like get into the nitty gritty. We spend a lot of time together working and workshopping and answering questions and doing all that, and like bringing the new group in, and then having a like, because they have like onboarding, they go through the complete 4-act structure course, so like they have stuff to do to kind of warm them up before we officially start the lecture. And so we sort of have this time off so that they have enough time to get situated and get oriented, but they're already in the community, they have access to me, they can ask questions. But it was like I was looking at the calendar and I was like, oh, we're gonna do us like, we're having break time in summer the same way that we have break time in winter. And I heard you talking about it and I was like, you're gonna be so proud because guess who's planning for a little bit of summer break in the academy? Because that's one of the things that I'm trying to model better that I don't model well is sustainability, because I work 100 million zillion hours a week and I don't take breaks, and my sort of personal well-being suffers, and I like, but like when I'm like coaching them like right through the process of like, hey, you need to take care of yourself, I gotta like, I have to sit myself down and put myself on the other side of the table of like, hey, like, again,
How are
modeling
you
what it
doing
looks
this?
like to take care of yourself, and having a
Exactly.
sustainable writing career when you do something else full time, right? Like, and so it's also like, what's cool is like it's challenging me to be better as well, right? And to like
Mhm.
find like, how can I be better for my community, which is
Well,
cool.
and it also allows you to be better in the sense of resting, but it also allows you to be better in the sense of creativity,
Hmm.
right? Because you're always thinking about workshops, or you're thinking about a new angle to be able to teach something, or a new resource, or like having that ability to sort of touch and concern other things outside of your natural environment just makes you a better coach in how you show
Yeah.
up, and time to read and just picks up because you want to pick it. And
Mm-hmm.
like, I mean, I'm planning to read a lot of stuff over the summer because we're doing movies.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna be like planning my summer reading list, right? Of
Yeah.
like, so I think that's the other part. And helping people if they don't know how to do it, because some people don't know how to do it. We
Yeah.
are coming off a hustle culture. So there's
Yeah.
some people that they don't know how to do that. And so during those times, I'll say this too. When we are in those things, I'll do things like post in our community what I'm doing, like a quilt
Yeah.
or paintings,
Yeah.
something that's non-writing related.
Yeah.
We do still put up our accountability posts.
Yep.
Those still go up. So if people are still working, we still put up our wins posts. So if people are still working and still doing
Yeah.
things, that they're still being supported, but at the same time, adding in those other things so that there is a sense of balance.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I love that. That's so good. That's so
Okay.
just
Well, you sort of started giving a little dabble of like your update.
yes, ma'am. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, the timing's kind of perfect, right? Because this is the second to last module, right, of this run of the academy. So we have our group now, and they're at this time now they're going into draft 2, right? So they're really going into that more intentional second draft, right? Because again, and we had a great conversation about this like a month or so ago, where it's right, like first draft is like your goal is the end, and then whatever percentage done that means for you, right, is like what we're after here. And so then we take, we spent the whole month of April saying, okay, like, so first it gives them a little bit of buffer in case they haven't finished their draft, to kind of just have some time to finish up and not feel like, oh no, I'm behind now, I can't keep up, and feeling like they fall off the wagon if they weren't able to finish their first draft for any reason. And then we spend April to say, okay, what do you have now? Like, now that you've been through it and you've seen it in action, what do you have? And we take the time to sort of tease out, like, okay, what needs more development? What's missing? What do I want to see more of? So we spend April sort of developing based off of what we learned about the first draft, troubleshooting anything that needs to kind of be like shored up or needs to be fixed, or plot holes that need to be plugged. So that in draft 2, so we're sort of separating out that writer and editor brain, right? And I literally, I designed the academy around separating out those functions, because a lot of times the students and the writers that come to me really struggle to separate those two things out, and it gets them stuck. They tend to get stuck because it's like editor brain keeps interjecting itself. So it's literally designed where it's like, this month we're in writer brain, next month we'll be in editor brain, but right now you gotta stay, like, we're gonna stay on track, we're gonna stay in writer brain. And so last month we were in editor brain, right? We're evaluating, we're problem solving, we're really getting in there and filling out the story more. And then this month we get back into writer brain, where we have a plan for ourselves for how we're going to tackle draft 2. And then this month is all about implementation and getting that story, now that you know it better, on the page. And that's what this month is all about. So but we're closing in, right? We're second to last module, so we're closing in on that last module. So it means that I'm also thinking about, like, okay, what are we doing for our weekend workshop, getting ready for our launch, and then also scheduling in breaks, because launch is hectic, and workshop weekend is like a lot of work and a lot going on. So trying to plan that stuff in advance, so that way I'm not like, I'm taking a break in quotes, because I do that a whole lot, and we're trying not to do that.
Not breaking quotes.
I've had a lot of quote unquote breaks, and I don't care for it. It's not good. Might as well just not take the time off.
Listen, you have to plan for it. And even like now when I get ready and Keeman knows I'm about to, he is on me. Like, okay, how is it going? Where are you? Like, me to be able to take it off, have my newsletters written and scheduled, my YouTube videos recorded and edited and scheduled. And I'm just like, right, first of all, but all that does is make you exhausted. You sleep through your break because you're exhausted.
Oh, you bet. And maybe that's exactly, maybe that's what, is that not what the break is for?
No.
I only have 2 modes. It is working nonstop and crash. Like, and Trevor tells me, right? My husband is like, he's like, Rachel, if you rested and relaxed in between, you wouldn't crash. And I'm like, I don't understand. I cannot wrap my head around like smaller respites in between, because it's like go crash, go crash, go crash. And listen, let me, hey, listener, I need you to, or YouTube viewer, I'm just listen to me.
On.
This is not the way. I'm telling you what is, not what should be. I'm working on correcting this. As you hear me talking about the way that I work, I want you to understand this is not what you should be doing. Do as I say, not as I do. This is not this is how I wind up getting the flu at the beginning of the year and crashing and all of the bad. So just, you hear what I'm saying, and I need you to know that this is what I'm telling you not to do. This is the wrong way to do it. I'm trying to self-correct, and it's not easy.
You won't be like me. Because, baby, listen, when I say, when I'm about to break, I'm going to break. I have all the modes. I got the relaxing. I got the quilting. I got the, listen. But I would go insane. So I'm just going to let you hold it down for both of us, because that is not my testimony. It's not.
Well, no, I'm trying to get over to your side. Don't hold me down. No, ma'am. I'm trying to come over to your side.
Listen, can't be breaking my constitution. It's not part of my constitution. I just can't do it. And if I could, I wouldn't want to do it still. But no, I mean, but it does take you, it does take some getting used to. And this is something that happens normally with having your own business. It's like, but you don't want to create a job.
Yeah. That's like, I went into business so I could work for myself. And then I find out I'm a mean boss.
You are.
Like, oh no. Oh no, she's a real ball buster. Oh God. So
listen. I'm like, no, don't say that about my friend. She's trying. Your try needs more try.
Listen. She does. Who scheduled who anyway? I know.
You did.
I know. So speaking of what's on the schedule and the fact that we are here to talk about Tempt Me at Twilight, which is a yummy Regency romance with all the tropes and all the good stuff, let's go ahead and dive into our conversation about this novel. But before we do that, would you like to hit me with that sweet, sweet summary?
Okay, here we go. Tempt Me at Twilight follows Poppy Hathaway, a young woman who longs for a quiet, respectable life and believes she's found it with the perfect, well-mannered suitor. But everything changes when Harry Rutledge, a powerful and unconventional hotel owner, becomes determined to have her for himself. After a scandal forces Poppy into an unexpected marriage, she finds her carefully planned future turned upside down. As she adjusts to life with a man who is as captivating as he is dangerous, Poppy must decide whether to hold on to the life she thought she wanted or risk everything for a love she never saw coming.
Ooh, yummy. That's a good summary. Ooh.
I
just hit me right in my feelings. Got me excited about the book all over again, even though I literally just
read it.
Listened to it. I just like, ooh, that sounds good. So what do you have on your sort of list of overarching topics that you really want to highlight from this book?
Honestly, y'all, I think we're going to talk about this. This is a book that I feel like is a little bit unconventional regarding the other books that we've read. I think it's a very strong book. This is a book that I've read over and over again for, I know, probably over a decade or more, for just different reasons. And it makes me sort of, and you're probably going to hear me say this every episode, just so that you'll know, it's sort of not like some of the other books that we've picked, but this is one of those that it literally stays not far. I literally read it all the time. And so with that said, I want to talk a little bit about having where the external, how to treat your external plot in, I guess, or what to do when you have a story that doesn't have a very strong external plot. Because I would say, of course, there is one loosely what I kind of feel like what she would probably classify as the external plot. and sort of how I see that and how when I'm working with clients. And then I also want us to maybe talk a little bit about how this story sort of operates on the scope of the series, because I think it does that really, really well. And then the last part, which I think could probably take up a better part of the conversation, is sort of how tropes are showing up in this story, because a lot of what you see is really sort of pulling the story through is attached to tropes that are really based on the emotional level, almost the internal level, but it's being used as the engine that's moving the story. And we're going to talk about that, and maybe even if we have some extra time, ways to maybe make that a little stronger potentially, or better yet, like just have an external plot. But I'm saying that, saying for the record, this is one of my all-time favorite stories, and this is one of my all-time favorite male main characters. I love
Yeah.
Harry. I love Harry as a main male character. So yeah, so I have that, and I'm sure there's going to be some more things, but there's going to be probably as equally as many caveats because of what we've previously had. But I believe that on its own, this story just stands. It
Yeah.
stands over time because it's just a great story.
Mhm.
What about you?
Yeah, so my sort of like thoughts are going to nest really nicely into yours. So I actually, this is like, again, this is one of those moments where I'm like, I'm learning things about romance. Like I'm getting better at this because I really like, I had notes on the tropes and the way that the tropes are functioning.
Hmm.
So already know we're going to talk about the tropes more specifically, but I sort of, I noted how the tropes sort of transition from one act to the next, and the way that, because this is a function that you've pointed out to me before, and I really saw how that was kind of like firing on all cylinders in this story. But also, I want to talk about her sort of like not quite inversion, but her own take and her own twist on the tropes for this particular story that I thought she did really well, and I thought added to sort of some of that like some of the special sauce of this story. And then I also had like notes about the series, and just want to talk a little bit, and you'll probably know, you'll be able to speak to this probably a lot better because you've read the other two books that came before this one, which I have not. But I really like the way that she created contrast among the couples in the series, of how they were all sort of very different dynamics among the female main characters and the male main characters. Which added to the overall effect of this, like in this particular book, because then you see kind of all of that coming to bear in this book. So I'd love to talk about that as well. So do you want to go ahead and start, maybe because we sort of have like this conversation about the external plot, and that kind of connects to like the tropes, because it sort of like doesn't have a lot of like external goal going on, but it really kind of rises and falls on the tropes. So do you want to kind of start by talking about that external goal, and how that functions or isn't fully or isn't as present in this story, and what you sort of recommend for writers as well?
Hmm. I think the easiest way to start this off is like having an external goal, which is a concrete, objective goal that we all can see. Did they accomplish this? Yes or no?
Mm-hmm.
Makes it easier for you to follow the story. It makes it
Yeah.
easier for you to know what's at stake, whether they've tried a go at accomplishing it and failed, and why it failed, and why they reworked their plan, etc.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's sort of this concrete thing that's sort of held out there, even if it changes over
Yeah.
the course of the story like it normally does. In this story, we don't really have that. It is a little more squishy
Mm-hmm.
because it is sort of relational, right?
Yeah.
A lot of what's the driving force behind this is their marriage. And this
Mm-hmm.
sort of kind of goes from a scandal to a, I would say, trope wise, we would kind of call it a forced marriage, but it really wasn't forced,
Mm-hmm.
more so of like a societal expectations
Yeah.
because of the scandal and what would have happened. I think it did a great job of sort of her weighing Like that best bad decision. That was a great moment, right?
Yeah.
If even bringing in the pressure of the external, like
Mm-hmm.
societal norms. So what I tell my clients, number one, I would never recommend that you write a story like this. This is one of those times when you pick up a comp or you're studying a story, being very mindful of when the story was released is
Yeah.
really critical.
Yeah.
You accept it for what it is because it is the story, but that's one thing that I would do. The other thing that I would say is that I always look for in our stories that there is a braid present, that there is an external, an internal, and a romantic goal that is
Yeah.
happening throughout the story. The presence of that braid will help you to keep from having moments where it bottoms out, plot holes,
Mm-hmm.
issues, because you're keeping it connected to that thread.
Mm-hmm.
And here that made it again a lot more challenging. So I would say she did a great job of still keeping the story moving by
Yeah.
holding on to where that marriage was and what was causing them from being at a happily ever after state on
Mm-hmm.
the page,
Yeah.
because they were adjusting to their circumstances and their worldview and how that was differing. And a lot of that, again, that was coming from the lens of their wounds, the lens of their familiar states and
Mm-hmm.
their backgrounds. And so we're literally watching two people sort of attempt to become one.
Yeah.
Right. And I think the other thing that I will say about this is that one of the things that this story does really well, and we'll talk more about it, and the characters, is that you really see the transformation of these characters. Even Harry, who I think saying he transforms is probably, he changes. I don't
Overstatement.
know. Hey, because we want him to stay like he is, but not okay. But you see the transformation, and that's one of the reasons why I love this story. So a
Yeah.
lot of those things are the things that you're getting on the page, and so it makes it so that it is still a great story.
Mm-hmm.
But what would have happened if had those characters not been as engaging and the family had not been as engaging, you would have had a huge issue potentially.
Yeah.
And so that's what I would say about that you want that. You want
Yeah.
that concrete thing. And so here, it could have been anything of like maybe the marriage for a reason on Poppy's behalf, or a marriage for a reason on Harry's side of things, or if there was some reason why if they didn't get married, something could have negatively happened to one of them or whatever. Like there's different things that you can play with, but that would have been helpful if we would have had something that they were working towards, and that thing that they were trying to prevent is the thing that we're sort of dancing around. And so yeah, I would definitely say that. But
Yeah. Can I
go ahead.
break in
Mm-hmm.
just super, super quick?
Yeah, sure.
I just want to
Absolutely.
draw this parallel because it's really cool, right? Because during our little like small talk, you were talking about the proposal, right? And the proposal is like a great counterexample of that, right? Because there's like strong motivation behind the fake engagement, and there's stakes on it, and there's something for both of them to lose, and there's like there's something like really, really like there's that external thing that's sort of like adding that complication and those stakes to it, which is exactly what you're talking about, that like would have been helpful here in this story. So we have that kind of like that contrast really baked in here in this discussion already, with the proposal as sort of a counterexample.
Yeah, because it makes it concrete. And that's
Mm-hmm.
why, like, a lot of times when it's like, you hear say squishy, what does squishy mean? Exactly. That's the problem.
Yeah.
Because she did a great job of writing it.
Mm-hmm.
But again, because she has skill, but knowing where each one of them are at any given state in regards to the state of that marriage
Yeah.
would have caused you to lose that, potentially feel like you're losing that thread. But she
Yeah.
made sure, like, we know, knowing that Harry's attempting to kind of still be manipulative and feeling like he got this thing in the bag, and Poppy showing him actually not as much as you think you do, right?
Yeah.
And him kind of like, okay, wait a minute. this is different,
Yeah.
or why would I want to be friends with the help kind of
Yeah.
vibe, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and but that was always also showing us the state of his sort of where he is between who he was and who he is, and who he needs to be to
Hmm.
have the person, like he has her almost as a possession, but to have her whole being
Yeah.
in the way that he desires.
Yeah.
And that's the transformation that we see Harry on. And both of them are sort of clashing. And every time they're in this moment where they are in sync, we see the potential of them,
Yeah.
and we want that. So
Yeah.
when they do something crazy and it sort of ricochets, then we're
Yes.
like, wait a minute. And we're chasing that next moment. And so that's what helps us to hold on. But if we would have had that as the driving force all the way, it would have made a lot of those moments a little more breathable.
Hmm.
And we could have kind of rested in them a little bit more. And so, yeah, that's what I would say about that.
Yeah, and it's sort of like we've talked about this with many, many other books where it's like, this author pulled it off, and it's like it's still a great book and we still enjoyed it. But when we're talking to writers who are currently working on something, or especially who are new, it's like, but you want to give yourself as good a shot, right? Like you want to give yourself the most sort of ammunition at your disposal to hook a reader and engage them and make them love the book. And so this is like just one of those things that's like you can like you give yourself almost like a better shot if you reach for, okay, we need some kind of external conflict to help drive the story when it's not just the romance, right? So we're taking all the possible opportunities to endear a reader to the story and establish, like endear them to us as a writer so that they feel like, oh, this is someone who makes good promises, pays them off, and that I always like have a good time, right, when I show up, or I get what I kind of asked for when I show up for the story. And this is that same thing because we've seen it with multiple other books where we're like, oh, this part could have been stronger. The writer pulled it off fabulously, right? And it's that kind of like just use all the tools at your disposal, and it just gives you the kind of increases the odds, right, of like someone attaching to your book.
Hmm. And I will say that this is a great opportunity to see things like when a character wants a thing, but what they really need is something else.
Mm-hmm.
And we can see that. And for Poppy, that was so true. Like she wanted Michael,
Yeah.
but she needed Harry, right?
Yeah, and Harry had kind of this similar, like he wanted Poppy, but he didn't realize on what terms he needed to actually connect to her, right?
Yeah, well, I feel like he already had her. I think what it for me, Harry's biggest journey is about um he he wanted Poppy, and he wanted to have himself unchanged too.
Mm-hmm.
And instead what happens is Poppy was not a pushover.
Yeah.
And to be able to, like, at one point when he's like he wanted her to give him those smiles.
Yeah.
He wanted her to give him that. For her to give him that, he had to be a different person. And he had to do something that he's never done before, which is show that not just that he could be steady and that he could be dependable, but that he could be trustworthy. And I think it helped that in a lot of ways, like he didn't lie to her, but he did tell her. He withheld the full truth,
Yes.
and to some people that means different things. And again, I think that's why this story is one of those great ones, because if you really were to sit down and look chapter by chapter, what is actually happening and changing, and how we see it evidenced in their actions, and how we see it evidenced in how um the author, how Lisa writes it on the page, you would begin to see, like, okay, how do you have transformation for a morally great character that doesn't like have a true, like, I'm going from being a bad boy to now I'm a good guy, or whatever. Like this, there's not a 180-degree turn. Like I don't even know if I would want to put it on the degrees. So when you don't have that, how do we see that he is in fact changing? Because he is. And the way that he changes is in the way that he needs, which is
Mhm.
like, why would I want to have to be consider family?
Yeah.
Why would I want to they don't need to like me. I take care of them and give them a good salary. I make sure people have, and we'll talk about this in character, but it kind of like as always comes here of like, she would not been able to give us the nuance of his transformation in a way that would have been palatable and acceptable to us as a reader had he not had those great qualities
Yeah.
about his sort of ethos as a man.
Mhm.
Right. And it was sort of like, baby, he had some one liners when he was like, no, basically, you dealing with a boy, you need to deal with a man that don't need nobody permission.
Yeah.
I was
Oh
like,
man, that is
mic
like
drop.
nothing hotter. Oh man.
Facts. I hear no lies. So, but at the same time, he was also a man that was wrestling with things. Or when she started realizing, wait, what if I see him through the lens that his employees see him through?
Mhm.
You know, what if I see him through the lens of his circumstances? He can't see through her lens because she's always had the protection of her family. Even when things were
Yeah.
bad, she had the protection of her family. And he didn't know. His only thing that he knew was like, you got to take care of you, essentially, is what he knows. So I think that's probably what held. I think I feel like I keep saying this, and I really think I'm going to write about this as an essay. When I think about the thing of like, great story covers a multitude of sins,
Mhm.
even if it's bad writing. And when I say that, this is not bad writing, but I
Yeah.
say that because a lot of times we think if we just make pretty words and we string it together, but it's really about what is the undercurrent of this. And I
Yeah.
think the undercurrent of this story is what people relate to.
Yeah.
I don't have a family like Poppy's. My story look way more like Harry than it does
Yeah.
like Poppy, or I'm like Poppy in that I'm awkward.
Mhm.
I'm not weird. You know what I mean? Like I'm
Yeah.
different.
Yeah.
And her different wasn't at odds where she was even quirky, but it was sort of beat moved to her own rhythm in a society that wanted a lot of sameness. And
Mhm.
what Harry does is he sees the diamond.
Yeah.
And when he saw it, we saw him see it. Oh, that's
Yeah.
what makes it so
Oh.
good. It's like, oh, I just, listen, I sink further into the couch because
Yeah.
this is just like exhale, Dana, and just watch a master work. And
Yeah.
so that's what I think you see here. It's one of those things where it's almost like throw the rule book out.
Yeah.
Just be here.
Yeah.
Just be here. And that's what you learn. So I would say that, like, that you have that. And I will say a couple of the other things that I feel like she does amazingly well, which is we said the series, and I will say that loosely because we'll talk about more in characters, but I'll say this is like the best, yummiest trope sandwich you ever want to encounter, like all of the things. And so I just have a small list. Opposites attract, forced marriage, forced proximity, bad boy, good girl, fish out of water, morally great protagonist, touch her and die, which is a more updated version of a trope, but we do see it here because Harry does not play about Poppy. You also have I think I said it, found family. Found
Mhm.
family is huge.
Yeah.
And I think that's the aspect that he needed but didn't know. He didn't want it. He wanted
Yeah.
her. That's
Mhm.
all I want. I want her.
Yeah.
And once he married, okay, I got her. But he
Yeah.
didn't understand to bag her was to bag them. And
Yeah.
they're not going anywhere.
Yeah. And
And
they
I
make
think,
that very clear
ooh,
of like, oh, no, no, right. We're not losing Poppy. You're gaining a family. I
I
mean,
fooled you.
mic drop.
Listen, Cam was like, quiet as this cat. Okay. And baby, he was cool. And Harry thought he was like, I'm not fooled by their relaxed posture. Like, y'all not fooling me. Listen. And um I feel like the tropes show up in a way that as a reader, it feels like a great nod of like you're leaning in. But it also is something that she picked strong tropes. And I
Yeah.
think it's because if you don't have that external there,
Yeah.
you really have to have a strong glue.
Mm-hmm.
You have to, because there's got to be a reason for us to keep showing up. And we keep wanting to figure out every time you give us a pivot, there's something that doesn't look quite the way we thought it was going to look, but it's there because we see it. But I didn't know it
Mm-hmm.
was going to look like that. We
Yeah.
keep wanting to figure out, what's going to happen next?
Yeah.
Because listen, when Poppy was like, I'm still getting married, and everywhere they turned, they was like, but you don't have to, but you don't have to. Poppy was like, listen, I'm doing this. And when she sent them out, and let me talk to you.
Oh, this is like and that's like one of the things that I noticed. I can't remember if I said it off the call or I've already said it on the call, right? But one of the things you've pointed out to me before is using the act break to introduce a new trope or transition a trope.
Transition.
And she does that here. And this, like, I was reading and I was like, oh, it's happening. The thing is happening. Everybody stop. The thing is happening. I'm like, oh, look. And, I would like open up my phone and I'd be like, it's at 50%. I knew it. Like, and bang on, right? Our key, those points of act transition is right where those tropes turn over. And that's kind of, just like you said, part of what gives it momentum, right? Where it's like the trope is the plot twist, where it's
It
like,
is.
well, hang on a second.
That's right. This
Just happened, right? And she does this really great thing that I loved seeing in this story, where she kind of gives her own twist to the tropes, which you kind of already hinted at, right? So like we have sort of like forced marriage, but like sort of, because ordinarily, right, especially in like a regency, a forced marriage is going to be like the family's like, oh no, you have to marry this man, you've disgraced our family, and we get the absolute, like the exact opposite in this story. Her family is like, you don't have to do anything you don't want to do. We will figure it out. Like, don't let him pull one over on you. We will take care of you. And even to the point of like, right? Like, don't worry, Michael. Like, we'll take care of you too. Like, we'll just come on in, right? But instead, so it's not the family forcing her into marriage, but instead, based on the circumstances, Poppy makes an intentional choice of, I'm going through with this. Like, I see what my options are, and this seems like the best way forward. And that, so that she kind of like, she chooses into it, even though she, like, the circumstances feel like her hand is forced. She clearly has both options, and she's the one who chooses to be like, no, I'm gonna do this, and I have my own reasons and my own motive for like saying, this is why I'm doing this and why I need to do this. And that was like, right, that was so cool, because that was such a twist on what we're used to seeing with forced marriage, of like, again, actually forced marriage, and the family kind of being one of the pushing factors there.
Mm-hmm.
And that was so well done, and it gives us that, right, we start to see like Poppy, yes, she's gentle, but we start to see, right, where she's like, oh, she didn't just fall off the turnip truck, right? Like, Poppy actually knows what she's about, and we get to watch her, like, we get to watch that more and more as the story goes on, where she kind of starts to take that agency and that ownership of her life and her decisions and her relationship. So that's something that I thought she did really well with her tropes in this story.
Yeah, and we see her navigate it, and like the point that the romance is really like the relationship, whatever that relationship is for Poppy, and where it stands at the end of the book is like the driver. We see it from the very beginning with the letter, page 1,
Mm-hmm.
right? Page 1, she's chasing this ferret, and we get the laughs and we get the dynamics and we get all of that like as we move along. And I think here the thing that I'll say about this, I guess sort of like a little bit in closing, is that it's almost like you have to pick your battles. I always feel like whenever I'm working with clients, I say you want to stack the odds in your favor.
Mm-hmm.
And the way you stack the odds in your favor is making sure that you have all 3 of those threads present and accounted for and
Yeah.
locked in. And it makes it so that it will give you a lot of wiggle room and grace down the path.
Yeah.
It just will. Here, you know, it could be the fact that there's such a big cast and the fact that you have these points where she's bringing in technology and
Hmm.
politics and giving us an understanding of what was going on at this time, and um, that it helped to fill in some of those spaces.
Hmm.
But I think also, if you were writing this, you would have to figure out how to fill those spaces in a
Yeah.
very meaningful way, and it will take a lot of that off of you when you have that braid locked in.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
just helps you. It's like, help me help you help us. You know?
Yeah, right. Versus having to be like, oh, what goes in this scene? Like, I gotta put something. It's gotta be interesting. It's gotta do A, B, C, and D, and now you're having to like rack your brain to like find something versus that external plot, which gives you something.
Gives
Like
it
it's right there, and you're like,
exactly.
oh, obviously we're on this trajectory, and then you can start saying like, oh, how does how does it impact our romantic thread? What's it doing internally? And it gives you. It's almost like it gives you something to work with instead of having to
Exactly.
be like, oh, what do I put here?
Yeah, and it's almost, and then the example I'll give, I was recently talking to one of my one-on-one clients, and she's plotting, and she was just like, you know, she sort of was churning a little bit because she just didn't know a few areas. And I always say, okay, you know, one of my number one things is know your numbers. Once you know your numbers, you lay it out. How many chapters should be in this act? She's like, but I don't know what goes in them. It's okay. Just put the
Yeah.
number down. Just put the
Hmm.
10 down. If it's 10 in this act, just put the 10 down. And when you begin to say, okay, I got 10. I know I start here. I know I end here.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, I'm
Yeah.
drawing this line. Okay, what can we do about this? You know, it just goes a long way, so that even though you have to be creative and you have to fill that gap, you don't have to think of everything.
Yeah.
Right? You don't have to think of everything. And so with that said, I think because she has those things where she's looking at these tropes, and it's as a twist, we have the dynamics of the couples and their sort of perspective on that relationship and what's good for Poppy and what's not good for Poppy, and what they think about Harry and what's not good for Harry, and what they think about Michael,
Hmm.
right? Even though he's kind of in and out, but he is a third party to this relationship in a meaningful way.
Hmm.
We see all of that sort of unfold before us, and it just, in the end, it works out beautifully. But it does make it so that you have to be masterful in your
Yeah.
approach and your execution. And I
Yeah.
think the reality is, when you have to do it that way, you have less wiggle room,
Yeah.
and less grace,
Hmm.
um, and we will want you to avoid that at all costs.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, just like you said, right? Just stack the odds in your favor,
Yeah,
right? Like it's going to give you more ammo. It's going to give you more drive. It's going to give you more to pull from. And so that's why we're always recommending give us an external something, give us some goal, something that we're working on out, like that's helping helping drive the protagonist towards something and motivate those decisions, and it makes everything else like easier to position, and again means that you have to it gives you more of that grace and more of that wiggle room for sure.
exactly. Definitely.
Awesome. All right, any other just last tidbits you want to add to make sure that we cover before we wrap for the day?
I would say the final thing is just know your niche.
Hmm.
If you were to pick up this book, and this is an older book, even though it's not super old, it is from 2009 is
Hmm.
when the mass version was published. And I doubt, because of this time, whether it had another version at that time other than maybe a collector's edition. So I would say know your niche, because
Yeah.
I personally don't, as an editor, and personally don't think it would be easy to carry this off now.
Hmm.
Could you? Of course, any story could,
Yeah.
but it would be a harder sell, and primarily because we have a lot of options. as readers. We have a lot of options as readers. So I would say, know your niche. And then if you are a new writer, find something that allows you to be as anchored and objective as possible, because that will help you with a lot of those decisions as far as how you work out those beat by beat moments that causes you to build a story.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Awesome. So good. So thank you so much, Dana. And thank you everyone for joining us for our conversation about the plot of Tempt Me at Twilight by Lisa Kleypas. Next week, we are going to be talking about the characters, which is one of the yummiest parts, I think, of this story. So cannot wait to have you guys back here next week to have our discussion on characters. In the meantime, don't forget to visit us online at storydeepdive.com. You can find out more about Dana, find out more about myself. You can also follow the podcast. Make sure, if you haven't already, that you are following the podcast and or subscribed on YouTube. Leave us a rating and review. Leave us a comment. Let us know how you feel about the tropes. Let us know how you feel about this story, what your experience was reading it. We'd love to hear from you. And of course, if you have any questions for us, we would love to collect those and field those in a future episode. So we will be back same time next week to talk about characters, and we hope to see you there. But until then, happy writing.